All right, I think we're live. This is actually a first because I'm live for me recording this now, but not live because I'm going to run this as a broadcast later in the day. I'm interviewing somebody who you may have seen in a video gone viral on the interwebs, on the Twitterverse, uh, being repeatedly referred to as the loser ex nurse. You're the loser ex nurse. If anybody hasn't seen the video, I'll try to find a way to clip it in, actually, maybe in post editing it so you can see that video now. But I started this interview in order to promote an event that's coming up, or let people know of an event that's coming up in Hamilton, Ontario this summer, where Christine Anderson, the European member of Parliament, who did a tour in Canada and got some people in trouble because some people in the Conservative Party didn't know they were hanging with extremist right-wingers from Europe. She's coming back to do an event in Hamilton, Ontario, where Holocaust survivor Vera Sharav is going to be speaking. I was actually supposed to speak there as well and do an intro, but I have an event that coincides with that I cannot miss, full stop. So I might just send in a video for a presentation. But it's an amazing event that's going to be happening in Hamilton, Ontario. Vera Sharav is going to be speaking. Christine Anderson is going to be doing a speech as well. And so right now I have Bethan Nodwell, who's going to be explaining what's going on, giving us some context. And as I'm backstage with Bethan, I said, how do I introduce you? She's like, Bethan Nodwell, the loser ex-nurse. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you're the loser, the loser ex-nurse who is compelled to walk away from a job because of inhumane, unconscionable, and unconstitutional mandates. So this is going to be very interesting. Bethan, I think Bethan can see me backstage, but if she can't, she can. Okay, I'm bringing Bethan in right now, and we're going to talk about what's going on this summer and what to expect. Bethan,
hey,
how are you doing?
I'm great. That was funny. Hey,
Oh God,
surprise in your eyes. You're like, you're her. I'm like, that was me.
Because I'm thinking the video, and by now I think I'll be able to edit it in so people can see it, or will have seen it. I don't remember seeing you in that video. I remember distinctly the person, like a delusional, unhinged individual, deranged, I should say, just repeating it like a child over and over again.
Loser ex-nurse.
How old are you?
Loser ex-nurse. Loser ex-nurse. You don't have a job as a nurse anymore.
My
do you?
3-year-old has more
loser
respect for
ex-nurse.
herself.
You're the loser ex-nurse. You're the loser ex-nurse.
Have you ever heard?
Look who couldn't keep her job because she doesn't know anything about science.
Explain to the world who you are, and how you became the loser ex-nurse.
I'm going to put that as my hashtag under my Twitter name, right? It can be identified as. So my name's Bethan Nodwell. I am from the Outaouais region in Quebec. And I did walk away when the mandates were coming down the line. I was working in a small town hospital as a nurse, and I was quite enjoying my life, as we all were enjoying our lives. And the Freedom Convoy basically hit my backyard, and I was part of the team that helped organize it behind the scenes, and I was running the Freedom Convoy stage. I remember seeing you in the crowd, Viva, with all your gear and your mittens and like all your stuff. I'm like, oh, there's that Viva guy. So it's a full circle moment. I haven't seen you in the flesh probably since Rolling Thunder. I think so. I saw you there.
Outaouais, for those who don't know, that's on the border of Quebec and Ontario, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. I'm on the French side, but I waffle between the two, and it's the National Capital Region. That's where we are. And so this has led to me being part of the freedom movement now. I started Freedom Fighters Canada, and we've done lots of events. We've done some border events. We've now started a group with the Americans called the North American Tour, then found ourselves out in Europe going to the Better Way conference, and that's how we met Christine Anderson and all the doctors. And it was, the team said, let's bring Christine Anderson to Canada because she really stood up for Canadians when no other politician would, and not in that particular direct way. I mean, I think some politicians kind of stood up for us ish, but not like Christine did. That beautiful speech she made in
Oh no,
Europe Parliament, like
I made a montage of that was people found interesting because hundreds of thousands of people viewed it. I guess they hadn't seen it. Christine Anderson was, I say, politically vicious in her critique of Trudeau, but there were others as well. And when people say that Justin Trudeau is admired and Canada sets the tone for the rest of the world, hogwash. You can call them minority members of parliament over in Europe, but there's quite a few of these who lambasted Trudeau and everything he's done to Canada and Canadians. But actually, just a bit of your history now. How long had you been a nurse for?
Going on to 10 years, with schooling and stuff. I did do nursing later. I have had a few occupations prior to nursing, but I thought it was going to be a stable job. It had a thing called a pension. And apparently those are all gone now too. And I have a family who's been involved in medicine, so I thought it was a wise career choice. It's a good choice for a mom. You're useful, right? When you're a nurse, you're a useful mother. And so I thought that this would be the perfect career for me. And perhaps, it's not all over, but I did need to walk away when the pressure was coming down on us really hard, and particularly in Quebec. We needed to walk away from a lot. We need to walk away from work. Churches were turning on us, saying that, only the vaccinated could show up at church and we could enjoy it via live streams. There were many, many things and opportunities lost. Our kids couldn't participate in sports for a while. There were many opportunities lost in the past 3 years, and only now are we starting to pull ourselves back together.
When, if I may ask, what was the date that you walked away?
When did I walk? It was the convoy came in January 22. So just a few months prior, probably October, November 21.
And so what I'm trying to get at here is you were a nurse up until the mandates. So you were a nurse in the early days of the pandemic as well?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I worked on a COVID unit and everything. I mean, they turned my hospital into this like a clown world, where they turned the emergency room into like a tent city where we had zippers that would go between the green zone and the yellow zone and the red zone. And I was like, is this for real? Are we really playing this game? So I did say to my boss, I'm like, send me in, like, coach, send me to Gatineau, send me to the front lines. Where is this COVID that everyone speaks so much about? And perhaps it was the season, but it was very quiet, very dead. The nurses were making TikToks. It's true. I never made a TikTok. I never did.
I was going to say, I don't know if you did.
In the future, I never made a TikTok.
Because if you did, someone's going to find it. So
never made it.
No, but tell me this. So I was getting it from the angle that they used you and then discarded you like trash once they no longer needed you. But what was it like working in the hospitals in the what's the word? Not the heyday, but like at the peak insanity of COVID? I heard people saying hospitals are overloaded. I heard other people saying the hospitals are empty because nobody's going for non-COVID reasons, and the COVID's not overwhelming the hospitals. What was your experience?
My experience was empty. And my experience was worry, because we did get cardiac patients regularly. We did get nephrology patients regularly. And I was like, where are these people? People who've got diabetes that's unmanaged. And the emergency room was vacant. And I think people enjoyed it for a while because you live on so much stress, but there's only so much reorganization of the supply room that you can do before you start getting anxious for the people who weren't coming in. It's like, you should be coming in. Where are you guys?
Let me ask you that, because that observation has two facets. One being, well, holy crap, if this is the deadliest pandemic ever and the ER is empty, I begin questioning the narrative of the pandemic. And two, there should be people here regardless. And if they're not here, are they sitting at home dying, or are they sitting at home getting stage 4 cancer because they're not coming in because of a growth is bleeding or something? Which one of those two, or what percentage of a combination of the two did you have?
Well, I did see people like coming in neon yellow because, they hadn't attended to their liver disease. We did see stage 4 cancers coming in, and it was way, way too late. This should have been handled a long time ago. I think for trauma, so if someone breaks their foot, they'll probably come in because their foot's facing the other direction. We still saw those incidents, but for long-term chronic health diseases, we saw less and less of that, and we should have had a stable amount. What we were told is that this pandemic was going to be so huge that our beds were going to be full, and we were probably going to have to fill our kitchen freezers with dead people. And it was just going to be, and it never was. It should have been a little girl came home with COVID and wiped out her entire family, and we were going to need to quarantine the house. But that was never the case. And it was my argument with police officers, guys, like, you guys are doing frontline. You're attending to emergencies all the time. Are you seeing an entire dead family wiped out by COVID? And they weren't. And, but they were complying, and they were wearing their masks, and they were doing what they were told to do. It was a very awful, difficult time, and it tore families apart, friendships apart. I ended up leaving the town I was living in because once I was involved with the convoy, I was persona non grata at the local grocery store.
Unbelievable. I don't want to know the name of the town in particular. I can only think of a few names that I could think of out there.
Yeah.
Actually upped and moved.
Yeah, no, we moved. We were just like, this is no longer our home. And because you were a minority in, a bunch, and then as soon as like the Ukraine flag started popping up, and we're just like, oh man.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I don't know where you are now. I'm just looking at the window behind you and remembering what springtime in Quebec feels like and smells like, and the sun, at the angle of the sun and the blossoming of the flowers.
Yeah.
Not to say I'm jealous. I'm going to be back up in Canada, for a bit this summer, but
you're living your best life in Florida.
Like
Mar-a-Lago. It's Mar-a-Lago.
Where did I go? No, I went to the Reawaken American tour. That was at it was a Trump Doral. So I've been to Trump Doral. I drove by Mar-a-Lago, but I didn't go for the protests.
You didn't go for a drink.
I'm trying to avoid getting like January 6th out here.
I went to the Reawakening tour in Pennsylvania and in Batavia, New York, and it's quite the experience, isn't it? Like,
it is. Well, I did
and a whole bunch of things.
No, I did. Look, it's eclectic, and if one were mean spirited, one could certainly go and make fun of some people there. But it's a good, it sort of felt a bit like the trucker convoy. It's a little more organized in a sense that commercialized. But it was great. Jim Brewer did an entire 20-minute bit.
He's
he's great. And it's nice to see firsthand the people that the media would go there to otherwise mock. They're good people. They just believe something that
and that's the populism movement, and the Freedom Convoy was populism, and the MAGA movement is populism, and it's all the people that they are ridiculing and making fun of, and calling names and saying disparaging things about us. That's their tactic. Their tactic is to ridicule us.
It's how they derive their legitimacy. Is they say, look, you guys you're buffoons, you're morons, you're anti-science. You need people to govern you. You're unable to govern yourselves. And so shut up, sit down, and roll up your sleeve, literally.
Right.
So now, actually, hold on. So you leave your town, you move towns.
Yeah.
You worked through the worst part of the pandemic, only so that this is a provincial mandate.
Yeah.
It was the Quebec mandate, or it's the Ontario mandate? Who would be giving you this mandate?
It would be Quebec. It was Legault. It was
Legault.
And we were about to be taxed. Remember?
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. No, I'm just trying to think of it in the hospital system, because there's no overlap in the hospital system on the border town. So this is Quebec province. Right. Oh yeah, no. Legault floated the idea of a vax tax for the unvaccinated, and then it got some blowback, and then he dropped it. It's just.
And I thought we were going to be quarantined. Like and I did say it to family members, like, should we be the smart Jews who left town in 1933 who said, like, I'm not liking the smell of this, and we saw what was happening in Australia. They were quarantining people. It didn't feel like it was that far away, and there was a panic starting to come in. And do we need to, like, we were looking at moving to the United States, and maybe we should, start a new life. And
I mean, I had the same observations because I remember this like clear as day, March 2020, the world shuts down, and I'm like, this is madness. I go to my parents' place, who they lived up the street, and I'm talking to my dad, and my dad's like, this is how the world goes crazy. And I was like, yeah, but when do we need, when is it get the hell out of here time? Because my grandfather came from Poland and was the only one of our family of 25 to leave, because all of the other ones were religious Hasidic Jews. They said, we're going to stay. It's not so bad. He was the only one who rebelled from the religion and left.
Right.
And one of 24 or one of 25 that survived because he left. And I'm thinking, like, we're not going to get to trains. And so people think the analogy is offensive, but we weren't very far off in terms of
to get there.
What they did in Australia, but what they did in Canada, like they were hauling people off to quarantine facilities. What do they call them? Government designated quarantine facilities. Quarantine hotels against their will, without legal representation, without telling their family where they were going. It was it's where some of them got sexually assaulted.
Sure.
Now, this is, I guess, a good segue into the event for the summer. Now, is it the speaker or one of the main speakers is Vera Sharav, who
she is the queen. Like, this is why we are doing the event. So, one of the members of our team watched her video series called Never Again is Now.
Nie wieder, by the way, it was German. Nie wieder meant never. It was never again. And there was a coin printed in Berlin. My dad came back from Berlin in 1986 with this coin and said, I think it was on the commemoration of Never Again. And now Vera Sharav is a child Holocaust survivor. How old is she?
She's 86 now.
86.
And she is, like, her mind is clear. This isn't some sort of feeble lady, like, sort of a falling away in the corner. She is full of life. She is smarter than most people in the room. She has done her homework. It's almost like ever since 1980 or 1945, she has been studying ever since. She has probably the most red-pilled senior citizen I've ever met. She knows about Operation Paperclip and MK Ultra. She's studied it all. She's followed.
Let me stop you there, just so everybody watching on my channel probably knows, but Operation Paperclip was the operation through which CIA and intelligence sifted out in the dead of night Nazi scientists, Nazi doctors who were in hiding. Some of whom had actually been convicted, I think, in Nuremberg trials. It was called Operation Paperclip because the Brits and the US were fighting over which Nazi scientists they wanted the most. And so they went through this book and they said, okay, well, we want this one. They put a paperclip on the page for the doctor that they were going to find a way to get out. They brought over these Nazi doctors with their know-how, their technology, their science. And it was a full-blown conspiracy theory until it was a known theory.
Right.
I was going to say something about
she's just tracking all of that, and she can name them all, and she can tell you where they went, and MK Ultra, which is another CIA initiative involving brainwashing, and so she's tracking all that. I'm just trying to speak to her range of intelligence and her range of knowledge, and her appeal to the world is that the conditions for the rise of the Third Reich are matching virtually identically to the conditions for the rise of the Fourth. And this is how Christine Anderson ties into it, is because she too has been saying, no, danger on the horizon. They're both pointing to the same horizon and saying enemy is approaching. And they know their history well. One is a German who grew up in post-World War II Germany, knows all about it, and someone who experienced the Holocaust firsthand. They're both saying like danger up ahead.
And one of my more vivid memories, or anecdotes from the convoy, was interviewing these truckers. Some of them are from Romania, Poland, Eastern Bloc, Saudi Arabia, down south, and they're like, I know what I fled. I know what it looks like. I know what it smells like, and now I see it and smell it here. And the good Canadians who have never tasted a lick of fascism in their lives, some of them have no idea what it smells like, and so they can't smell the food burning in the oven.
That's
I was going to say something about and when people make certain comparisons, and like Canadians say those comparisons to the Eastern Bloc, Russia, Soviet, they're exaggerated, and I'm like, I've talked to people who are from these countries and say they're not exaggerated. My neighbor in Canada, Hungarian, and I remember like one time I said, this is starting to feel a lot like communism, and he says, David, don't say that. No, it's not yet. And then like 6 months later, after there was an issue at the border, family was separated, he's like, okay, now you can say it, David.
yeah, right.
And so Vera has been an outspoken critic of this, and some people say, oh, comparing it to the Holocaust is cold, callous, and whatever. And then Vera says, well, she'll say, well, I'm a Holocaust survivor. And then some people are going to say, well, then you should know better. There are no trains here. There's no this. What is the essence of her message? Although we're going to hear it over the summer. What's the essence of her message?
Well, the essence of her message is that don't go quietly into the night. And I think that's why she had so much respect for the Freedom Convoy, because had only the Jews, once they had been put into their own 15-minute cities, actually started to rise up, perhaps trains wouldn't have been the next natural step. And so now is the time to make noise. Now is the time to say no and work together. I mean, there's so much infighting and there's so much drama, but now is the time for us to work together and rise together like a populism movement. And ultimately, never again is now. We need to move now. There is an urgency in what she's sharing.
Anybody who has not read Stephen Deese's The Rise of the Fourth Reich should read it. It's a book dealing with prosecuting those who had a hand in this COVID response, and it's drafted as a trial with witness testimony, opening, closing arguments. It's a great book, even if you don't agree with the message. But if someone doesn't agree with the message, it's because they don't know enough, I would say.
And that's okay. Like, this is another thing too, is that I don't agree with everything Vera says. I don't agree with everything Christine says. That's okay, because there's a Venn diagram overlap, and it's finding that commonality in our overlap. It's okay for us to disagree. I think it's about name calling and canceling people and censoring people that you think you don't agree with, where we're having this giant fallout within our society. I want to make debate great again. And even Christine and Vera might not see things identically. There is this overlap that's so important.
I say it's the juvenile cultish way of viewing things, to say, well, Christine may have said some things that are offensive, therefore write her off entirely. Only cultists view people as monoliths where you have to agree with everything or nothing that they say. But the bottom line is, you don't have to agree with everything everybody says all the time. But on certain issues, you have to say, yes, I'm not cool with the vaccine tax. And if you are, we've got fundamental problems. Gina Carano's comparison, because the trains and the 15-minute cities and the ghettos or the quarantine hotels, that's like one level above. There was a point during all of this where the government successfully got Canadians to tolerate what would otherwise be intolerable, insufferable, unconscionable, demonizing your neighbor, ratting out your neighbor. And that's where, like, when we see things hitting maybe not the same distance, but definitely in the same direction, that's when everybody has to start speaking out. And if they don't, you get to that next step and it's too late to go down the Heideggerian ladder. So the event, what's the event?
So the event, we're going to have a dinner evening with some speeches, I suppose, Viva virtual Viva. And I was initially going like Viva and Vera. There's such a ring to it. So we will have presentations, a little bit from a member, Eddie Cornell from Veterans for Freedom. There is like a military thread in all of this, looking at our history militarily. We will have Trish Wood, who is a well-known like well-spoken podcaster, journalist, and so she has words to share. Christine, Christine always has something to share, and Vera, she is a treasure, and she's 86 years old, guys. Like, tomorrow's not promised. Even though she's in incredible health, we have to take advantage of these moments. And one thing I do want to share about that is, remember, during the pandemic, they locked away our senior citizens, and many of them died off. And when you look at the diamonds of wealth of information that Vera is holding, she is one of those seniors that they wanted to cut off and just like silence. The Holocaust survivors are getting old. And we need to, bring them back into the mainstream and bring them back into society, because their wisdom counts for something. She was the one going, what's happening right now is not new, kids. And we need to hear that. And she also has solutions. So the event is 2 days. One is a dinner and where there'll be speeches. And then the next day we'll be watching some of her movie, and there'll be questions and answers after it. But the idea is to see the conditions that we are currently in, how they are like the past, and then solutions. What are we going to do moving forward?
Let me ask a stupid question to which I do not know the answer.
Oh,
Any members of the Conservative Party of Canada in attendance?
Oh, perhaps like a clandestine with like a dark sunglasses.
So the answer to that is no. There are that you know of, no Conservative members of, no Leslyn Lewis, no Pierre Poilievre agreed, or were they invited?
Well, at this time around, perhaps not. It was very hurtful what Pierre did, and I think that this is important too. For again, he called us names, just like Trudeau did. He insulted us, just like Trudeau did. That was really shocking to many.
I thought. Sorry, I should actually, so people get part 2 of that joke. Pierre Poilievre, after Christine Anderson did a tour,
called her
vile. Canada has no place for her hate. And I thought it was so bad what he said. I said Brian Lilly, I think, was the reporter who broke the story. I said he had to have got it wrong. Like I retweeted Brian Lilly. I was like, no, someone had to have got this wrong. No, lo and behold, this is what's his face? The other guy, the one who was the leader before, O'Toole. It's Aaron O'Toole 2.0.
Right.
Leslyn Lewis was a little bit more defiant.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Banana pants. She came out of the gates with banana pants. And
I did not know that Trudeau did that. I knew about the blackface. I didn't know about the banana pants. Is anyone from the PPC, Maxime Bernier?
Well, Maxime's running hard for his campaign in
June 19th.
Manitoba, right? So he's really going for a seat. So that's all hands on deck in Manitoba for that. So again, we're politically orphaned. As the Freedom Convoy, found ourselves quite politically orphaned, even though, people can argue that Pierre Poilievre rode the coattails of the freedom movement and then very carefully distanced himself as time went on. The freedom movement, and it's a populism movement, finds itself without great leadership. And perhaps that's not what populism is about. It's about the people all coming together and doing it anyways.
But you know what? At some point they don't need a spokesperson, but they do need some form of representation in government. But it does. This is how the tide shifts, or the tide rises. It slowly, then hopefully all at once. But it's true. Maxime is running for Portage Lisby in Manitoba, and I think that election day is June 19. Yeah, I would have been there, but for a family obligation. I'm going to be in Phoenix, Arizona, judging a competition, not one in which my daughter is participating, but she's participating in a competition, and I'm judging because it's, once I'm down there, I'll judge other participants. Absolutely no way I could get out of that without.
You're having the time of your life in America.
It
seems like I've got a bit of FOMO going on because you're having such a great time.
Well, but FOMO, the nature of FOMO is the grass is greener. There's stresses down here, like, politically in Florida, it's kind of a hot spot. And then geographically, there's no mountains, there's no fresh water you can just jump in like in Quebec. It's beautiful, but it's hot all year round. I like snow, I like winter.
I like
love
fall, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want crocodiles eating me.
I'm not scared.
Mention.
Call me stupid, but I'm not scared of the crocodiles.
Really,
They are all over the place.
they're all over the place.
Iguanas, turtles, snapping turtles. The birds are beautiful. But I do miss Canada. But like I said in I forget which podcast. I mean, the government successfully turned my home country into a prison, and they turned my home into a literal prison. I will never ever forgive François Legault for that.
Right.
5.5 months of curfew. People don't understand what went on in Canada, and they think, oh well, it wasn't so bad. It's all over. The whole world went crazy back then, so let's forget about it. And talk about analogies to historical events of the past. Yeah, the world went crazy for 6 years. Let's just forget about it and like go back to living with our neighbors who wanted to rat us out and tax us for non-submitting to something which we now know is causing serious problems.
But where America, I think, and Canada are getting each other is with Chinese interference. I think those Chinese police stations really resonated with Americans. They're like, what? There's Chinese. And we were like, oh yeah, we got them up here too. So there is there's something that's happening with the Chinese interference that is bonding us. With a patriot movement or a freedom movement, is that we're clear that we've been being meddled with apparently since the Mulroney years, which is shocking and devastating. It goes back that far.
I just had on Yeonmi Park talking about North Korea and how, the only reason nobody does anything in North Korea is because of Chinese influence. And so, and we're seeing it. And I think people are becoming aware of the degree to which our politicians are beholden to, our celebrities and athletes are beholden to financial interests related to China, which make
they're captured. They're all captured. They have clearly infiltrated the NDP, clearly infiltrated the Liberal Party. It appears that, if it goes back to Mulroney years, they've infiltrated the Conservatives as well. PPC is kind of an unknown factor right now, but it's a new party. So there's a bunch of wild things happening in a brand new political party anyways. But we have every single one of our institutions is appointed and captured, and it looks like the RCMP is captured. Otherwise, we should have some arrests happening by now. The Senate is captured. Our judiciary is captured. Our legislature is captured. What isn't captured but the people right now?
Bethan, the RCMP's made some arrests of Jeremy McKenzie, the guy who ratted out the RCMP's internal text messages about
right.
All right, so it's going to be phenomenal. It's June 16th, 17th, Hamilton, Ontario.
Once in a lifetime, guys.
Is it going to be live? Is it going to be live broadcast? You should do that if you're not going to do that.
I know. I mean, like,
think about it.
In there.
I'll talk to somebody, see if that can be done.
Talk to the people behind the scenes.
Maybe I can tune in via live broadcast. Oh my goodness.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be amazing.
And the European members of parliament who have been through this, like Christian Teresh from Romania and Mislav Kolosevic, he is from Croatia.
Yep.
Their speeches are going viral too, and they may just come in the fall and knock on our doors as well. And if they are coming, we're coming to see you in Florida.
Deal. All right. Bethan, thank you very much. And hopefully, I'm going to, by the time people watch this, I'll have hopefully edited in a few clips of Vera, a few clips of Christine Anderson. And this is, everybody should.
Reporting live.
Well, everyone should know of the event when it happens. We'll see if Viva can't pressure people to make it go live at the time. Bethan, thank you very much. Loser Ex Maris. I had no idea. And may everybody see who has been abused and people feel righteous in their abuse. To call someone a loser ex-nurse because you walked away from your job because you weren't going to be compelled to submit your body to the government, and now seeing the consequences of all of that.
What a road it's been.
Well, you had more insight and more courage than some, but whatever one had chosen to do with their own body, it became an issue of when other people told other people what to do with their own body. Bethan, thank you very much. And we'll stick around. We will say our proper goodbyes, and this broadcast is over for the people. See y'all later. Peace.
Freedom.
Any message to Justin Trudeau specifically?
Shame on you for changing a beautiful country with free people into a very confused public who can't believe what you're doing to them.
At that time, the fear was against Jews who were accused of being spreaders of infectious disease.
Prime Minister who openly admires the Chinese basic dictatorship, who tramples on fundamental rights by persecuting and criminalizing his own citizens as terrorists just because they dared to stand up to his perverted concept of democracy, should not be allowed to speak in this House at all. No one grants me freedom, for I am a free person. So I dare the European Commission and the German government throw me in jail, lock me up and throw away the key for all I care. But you will never be able to coerce me into being vaccinated if I, the free citizen that I am, choose not to be vaccinated.